Update on Andrew?
He's probably doubtful right now for the game.
Do you have a timeline for him as of yet?
No, but the way it looks now, he's probably not going to play Thursday or Saturday.
So then if you don't have him, do you go in thinking, all right, we have to keep Gaddy on the floor and do whatever possible, or
Kind of.
how's it?
It would help if he could stay on the floor.
Does then he become sort of automatically less aggressive, like he just can't pick up the silly fouls or the ticky-tack fouls?
I think ticky-tack fouls. The foul, he committed 3 fouls. If he doesn't commit the 3rd foul, there's not an issue. The 3rd foul was in frustration, throwing the ball away. Those are the ones he can't. They get the rebound and you slap a guy's wrist. Those are the ones you can't do. So I don't think he should be worried about being aggressive. Just has to make sure that he's a little smarter in terms of some of those frustration fouls.
Have you seen a pattern of that early on, though,
What's
with him,
that?
Coach? And just in terms of maybe picking up maybe a foul here and there early in the game that maybe he could have probably avoided?
He's been like, Baron Davis in college was notorious for that. He would pick him up the same way like that. Just, sometimes, needless fouls. Abdul's gotten better because if you look, last year he averaged 34 minutes, 35 minutes a game, and this year he's averaging a lot. So in order to average that many minutes, you have to stay out of foul trouble. So for the most part, he's done that. But every now and then he'll pick up an occasional foul that he probably shouldn't.
Did you have Suggs at the scores table for him when he committed that foul?
I don't remember if he was at the scores table. I know it was close because he picked up the 2nd.
Have you heard from Coach Dollar this week, or is it usual or unusual to hear from him right before this game?
Usually he follows us, we follow them, and usually we have a big social gathering after we play him. Just me and him. But before, we don't usually talk about it.
You said big social gathering.
Yeah, just a big social gathering.
Okay. He wants, I'm sure he'd love nothing better than to beat you.
Yeah, and I know Coach Dowler, he wanted nothing better than to beat Eastern Washington last night too. But obviously, last year they came close to do it.
If beating you would feel a little different.
Beating our team?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, probably. I would imagine sooner or later it's going to happen. We're going to keep playing, so sooner or later.
Is that
You want to keep saying, I hope it's later.
is that when this will become a true rivalry, though, is when they're actually able to beat you guys?
I wouldn't say whether they beat us or not. I think Seattle U has continued to improve now that they're in the conference, and they've had some big wins over the years. Whether we beat them or they beat us, I don't know if that's going to be the biggest issue in terms of a rivalry.
Lorenzo,
They keep getting better. I know that.
you talk about his competitive nature and everything else. Do you show the team the tape of the game, like Abdul's freshman year, when he employed the fouling thing, and
No.
just to show them what he's capable of strategizing?
No. Coach Dollar is legendary for the competitor that he is and the pit bull that he is. He was like that as a player, and he's like that as a coach. So his reputation precedes him. So the guys that were here or know him, they know, and then they tell everybody else. And anybody who watches Seattle U's teams play, they know. And anyone that talks to Coach Dollar knows. That will not surprise anyone, the way that his teams will compete.
It seems it's tough, it's subjective, I guess, and tough to quantify, but it seems like you've tried to breathe life in your team maybe more this year than in past years. Is that fair with your clapping when they come into timeout, or are you just trying to motivate them more? Do you feel like you've had to do that more with this group?
No, yes, definitely. And, 2007, 2008, those groups, we had to do the same thing with those groups. We had to continue to push those groups. Now, those teams did have John Brockman. So, but even with John, we found ourselves constantly pushing, prodding, trying to get us to be high energy. And it was difficult with those two teams. And this team is probably has been so far more like that. With the exception of Spencer going down though in 2007, again, it was different because we had all our team. This team, we have to do that even more because, you know, other teams have guys out and they come out and compete. Doesn't mean that they're going to be the best they can be, but they still come out and compete. And we got to make sure we do that.
Is that a byproduct of it seems like you have a pretty laid-back group, at least off the floor. Is that kind of going onto the floor as well with them, and you need them to kind of be more intense, be more vocal? What would you like to see?
I think we just have to have an understanding of who we are, and we can't walk out on the floor and automatically win games. Wave a magic wand and we're going to win the game. We should know that by now. But I just know how we played in our first game. It was our opener. A lot of excitement. And I know how we played when we went to Connecticut. First half, we're up 16 against Seton Hall, playing very good basketball. Ohio State, we didn't win the game, but for the most part, played good basketball. And then when we have been down to Fullerton and then in our last game against Reno, all of a sudden, we're back playing good basketball. And there's a pattern there. When we feel that this is either a big stage or we're in trouble, we tend to dig in and play a little better. That's kind of been our pattern, and good teams don't have that pattern. You play one way, regardless of who you're playing and regardless of the circumstances of the game at the time. We have to get to that point.
What's the trick to get them to that point?
I think if every coach knew this, that would be the one, the coach that could get the guys to do it. Sometimes going through adversity is what you need. I mean, what was it that turned our team around in 04? It was 0-5 in conference. I don't know if it was necessarily a trick. I think that team was doing a lot of the right things, but couldn't quite get over the hump. And then finally, we felt what success was in terms of victory, and then we went from there. It took that. We were prodding them and trying everything every day in practice, but we were 0-5. It wasn't like, I think we lost 3 or 4 in the preseason. We were trying things in, but it wasn't clicking. It wasn't clicking. Finally, took us to experience some success, and then it clicked. We've had other teams where it took some real adversity to make it click. I really feel like something's going to happen where it's going to click with this group. We have to keep talking about the right things, continue to get better defensively and offensively, sustaining the proper effort for longer periods of time, starting off the game the right way, and I think it'll eventually click. Hopefully it'll click Thursday.
If it does click, what do you think this team's ceiling is? I'm not talking about wins and losses. I'm just, what should we see if they're playing ideal?
I think we see a team that can be pretty much competitive with anyone we play in our conference. I think we can be competitive. That doesn't mean we'll win everyone. I don't know how many we will, but I know we can be competitive. I know what I've seen out there on that floor in some games and for periods of times that you could not manufacture if it wasn't there. So that's what I think.
Washington and Seattle, obviously this is a big deal to alums. Rivalry, probably more than the players. Have you had experience where the the bigger school, the one that's won the most games, gives life to the smaller school by the upset, where a program that is either young or down gets revived by beating Big Brother.
So the higher profile school loses, and that was the game that the lower profile school uses to propel them on to greatness. Other than Hoosiers, I can't think of it. But understand, this high profile, perceived better, all that is out the window. That will not matter Thursday. But when I say perceived, they're 3-3. We're 4-4, so I don't know who's better right now. We better go play. We're not looking at we're the high profile school. We're looking at we gotta go play. We can't count on anything as far as we're concerned.
You talked about the big stage, and adversity kind of brings out the best in this team. If you look at your last 4 non-conference games record-wise, it doesn't look like it's not, you know, Ohio State and some of those schools. Are you going to have to push the team a little more to get through those, do you think? Or do you think that it's clicked in now that maybe they know what needs to be done?
We'll find out. We will find out. I would not have told you that we would come out and play lackluster basketball the other night. I wouldn't. You couldn't have convinced me we were going to do that. So I've said this before sometimes in down times when you look at your guys' confidence in practice. And I thought today we had a spirited practice. We didn't practice like a team that was down in the dumps. We practiced like a team that believed in themselves and was going to go out and do a nice job.
How's Sean?
I'll tell you what I did. Sean is doing pretty good. We did tell our team that a few years ago, whether they were taken lightly or not, who knows, but Seattle U went to Oregon State and beat them by 50, or they were winning by 50. Do we know, was it 50, or were they up at 50 one time?
I think they were up by 50 and won by like 30 or 40.
At one point, it was
40. I think they
Yeah.
might have.
on the road. It was a 50-point lead. That's hard to do at home. And they were up 50. So don't sleep, fellas. We told that to our team. You know how hard it is to be up 50?
That's the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a close game in the first half. So they outscored them by like 40-something in the second half alone.
Yeah.
You said Sean's okay. How rusty is he?
He doesn't have his touch like he had it before he got hurt, so he's a little rusty.
What does that do?
Out 5 weeks without playing competitively, you'd be a little rusty.
How big is that, just to have him back and
Oh.
put him in there with us? Aziz?
Made a big difference the other night in the game. He just, the way he's playing now, he's just playing with so much more confidence. He's strong, and he blocked a couple of shots. He runs the floor really well. He adds a different dimension to our team.
Are you excited to have your whole team back at 100%?
Is it back?
Well, not Andrew's not.
Oh, I was about to say, man, I would be really excited. When we do get him back, yes, we will be pretty pleased. Pretty pleased.
Lorenzo, when a fan's watching the game, when would he know, watching this team, when they're playing the right defense, with the makeup you have, and you have to go zone sometimes because of depth, but to the viewer, when do you know that they're playing the way you want defensively?
When teams aren't getting layups at an alarming rate, when I think with the makeup of this team is not going to force you into 17, 18 turnovers a game. That's not how we'll judge it. But when teams are taking tough shots. And you start getting that field goal percentage down. We're 40, I think right at 42 or below the last 2 or 3 years. And last year's team had a lot of, I thought we broke down defensively a lot, but there were times though that we were pretty good on defense or we wouldn't have won the league. This year, we've seen it in stretches. There was a stretch in the Nevada game where we forced turnovers and forced bad shots. We were able to cut the lead from 18 to 8, I think, in 4 minutes because of it. Then tie the game up because of it. And more possessions like that over a longer period of time, we'll be able to tell.
And when, I guess more when you're in man, but when Aziz is coming out with block shots, you mentioned the other night, he can be a little more judicious on what he chooses. Do your guys, are they recognizing enough to fill his spot? Is that part of the issue, or just?
That's a little bit of it, yeah. We need to be covering down when he comes up to block those shots like that. But again, sometimes it's better to fake and get back as opposed to just stepping up.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the total issue. The issue is how did the guy get there in the first place? He's stepping up too much. He shouldn't be doing that. We need to do a better job of keeping people out of the paint, keeping people in front of us. Your rotations are something you need to practice, just like you practice special situations. Just in case, we better know what we're doing. On rotations, just in case. But if you're rotating too much, your defense isn't very good.
Rotation better not be the primary defense.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, let's work on our rotation defense now. Second half. You're not gonna win that game.
You guys have faced some good point guards, and it's been pretty obvious that that's happened a lot. Is that the rotation, or is that just, you know, the guys you faced and you have been able to keep them in front of you?
We have to do a better job of keeping people in front of us. No doubt about that.
Do you have the, I mean, you have the bodies to do it? Do you have the guys who can do that here?
I think when we're at full health, we'll do a better job of that. We still, regardless of who's playing in the game, we still need to do a better job of that. Regardless of who's injured, who's not injured, we can do a better job.
Does 6 foot limit how you handle him?
Only in practice. We can't give him as many reps as we give everyone else. But it's better than CJ's situation last year where he couldn't practice at all. Scott can practice, but you just have to watch him, and if he ever goes over the pad, just say that my foot's starting to stiffen up, he's out right away. It doesn't mean he's going to miss the game, it just means, okay, he's reached his limit that day. Stiffening up doesn't mean he's re-injured it.
When you saw Abdul dunk to tie that game, were you surprised by the dunk? Were you surprised by his very strong emotional reaction after that? And how important are emotional jolts and kind of highlights like that? They've always seemed to be a staple of what you guys do and to get things going, and not as often this year.
3 questions you just asked me, I'll try to answer all 3. First of all, the dunk caught me more off guard than anything. He made up some dunk he made up in high school that he did that before. I don't think he did that before. But he says he did, so we'll go with it. Now, the emotional outburst was, maybe that really showed he never did that dunk before. Because of the way he reacted. But it was good to see. He's not taunting, just, you know, he's having fun with that. I think the outburst just made a great play. And I think in the game today, that's how the game is played. You know, there's a lot of excitement. The kids get excited, and you know they yell out. And I think throughout the course of a game, and energy that something like that provides is always a good thing. We always talk to our team about we need to have that same energy when someone takes a charge. Someone makes a great defensive play and dives on the floor and gets you an extra possession. You need to have that same type of energy, that same type of reaction when someone gets a dunk. So I think those things are good. That answered all 3.
Hey, after 8 games, how would you rate C.J. Wilcox? It just seems that he's doing a whole lot for you guys.
I would have to agree with you. Right at 20 points a game. I think he's our 3rd leading rebounder. He's shooting a pretty good percentage from the field. Every team we play against, they're game planning for him. And you got to throw in the one game he had where he's 11 of 13 and he gets 27 points. That's efficient basketball. He's playing at a pretty high level.
You want him to play with the last game? You think you rested him for 1 minute. Is that ideal?
Do we want him to play as much as he played last game?
Mm-hmm.
No. No, I think throughout the course of the season, with us asking him to defend and rebound, and he's got to run around and do everything to get open because teams are not just giving him easy shots. I think if he plays that many minutes by the end of the year, he'll be worn out. So he can't play that many minutes. Right now, we don't have much choice. But when everyone's back, we can afford to rest him and everybody else. It can be more balanced in terms of minutes guys are playing.
And at this time, he's probably your best perimeter defender. Is that accurate? On ball defender.
Scott's pretty good. Between him and Scott, on ball might be Andrew Andrews.
I mean, but healthy now.
Oh, healthy now.
Yeah.
Between him and Scott.
You've had to turn to him, it seems like, in a couple games to guard the guy who's hot. Could he be better offensively if maybe he was able to do less on defense, maybe kind of not have to take that role?
Maybe. But I always tell players the great ones do both. Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, those guys that are on the all-defensive team too, they do both. But there are times when, in terms of a matchup, if the 3rd perimeter guy isn't quite, they don't go to him as much. If we can, we'll try to put CJ on that guy so that he doesn't have to exert as much energy.
Lorenzo, when you talk about intra-city or intra-state rivalries, a lot of times the argument for the higher profile school is, well, we have nothing to gain in this game. If we beat them, we're supposed to. If we lose to them, we're changing the perception about who's the big dog, and that can help them in local recruiting and only hurt us. Do you believe in that kind of stuff? And if you got to a point where, let's say you played Seattle U for 4 years and it's 2-2, would you continue to play them?
Mm-hmm.
And why do you see it differently than?
For me, I guess this is kind of what I was raised on, so to speak. Because when I played here, we played against Seattle U, but we played against them twice a year. We play them home and home, almost like they were a conference opponent. And it's just kind of what you did at Washington. And then, they weren't Division I anymore, and the series was discontinued. Now it's back up. We'll continue to play them. They're right there, and we'll continue to do that. I don't see the other peripheral issues, though. You go out and play and let the chips fall where they may. You can always think there are enough players to go around where you can coexist. And just like they believe in their program, we believe in our program.
Can you tell that Trent wants to prove a point? Have you had a conversation?
I joked with him last year. We played, this is the second time he's played against us. And I was joking with him like, I know you're going to try to get 30. I know. And he just kind of smiles. You didn't say what? Just smiled. So he's our leading scorer right now. He's playing good basketball. I'm sure he wants to play well. I'd be shocked if he thought, I don't care if I play good against those guys. I'm sure he wants to play well.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, Coach.
Alrighty.